Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City. And this, of course, is the place where we want to help you build a Lego city regardless of the space you have. And this is episode 8 of Coffee and Bricks. Wherever you are in the world, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a live stream, so please join in and participate. I know we've got quite a few people already inside, so thank you guys for being on time and being excited for the live stream. We've got a great topic for you today. We're going to discuss tips on how to make a custom Lego city look bigger than it actually is. So we're going to talk about the art of illusion. So how are you guys doing? Let us know in the chat as usual. I'm sure the regulars know. Let everyone know where you are in the world and what time it is, because that's what we like to do. Just like to share in the whole international community, and I know that we have people from all over the world each and every week, from Europe to Asia, Australia, North America. So let everyone know who you are, where you're from, and what time it is in your world, and we can all appreciate the different time zones we are in. Well, guys, it's great for you to be here. Let's just have a look at the chat for now. I'm gonna pull it up at the same time, bring it up onto screen so everyone can see where we are. And if you like to support the channel, there are many ways you can do that. Easiest way is to join in the chat, of course. And if you're watching this or you're watching the replay, hit that like button. That engagement helps us. And of course, very simple, if you haven't, and I'm sure most of you already have, please subscribe to the channel. So if you're watching this and you have not subscribed to Small Brick City, what are you waiting for? And finally, you can head over to smallbrickcity.com/shop and check out any of our merchandise as well. We've got building plans, instructions, books, cool stuff like the Do Not Disturb Building in Progress mug. So you can check all that good stuff out. And of course, if super chats are enabled in your country, you can hit that. That's the $ at your live chat. And if you like, you can donate any amount you like. We always appreciate it. Great. Let's see, who do we have? I'm just going to call out a few names. I saw Mahan earlier. I think, Mahan, you've been here for every single live stream, right? Jommy Bricks, Bliss 209, Benny Spaceman, Susan, Alexis, A-Gamer, Gavin, Legolamaniac, Robin, Julians, Magnus, Alexis, The Woodshop Teacher, Trudy, Jolie, Speakly, Bricktube, Music Binder Pro, Mattia maybe, G Group Lego, Jesus, Ken, Brick Studios, lots of people. Thank you so much. Jacob, I see you as well. Now, if I missed your name out, please forgive me. I am looking through the stream as quickly as I can. We've got great stuff lined up for you today. We're going to talk about the topic, which is how to make a custom Lego city appear bigger than it is. And I think this will be useful for people, especially if you have a small space for your Lego city. You want to make it look bigger and more impressive. And if you've already got a big space, then this will make it even look more massive. We've got the Small Brick City Spotlight, some small spotlights this week, but I think you will be interested. I'll be doing some magic as well, just to spice things up. And of course, we'll be doing the Q&A. So if you've got specific questions, please ask them during the Q&A portions, which are generally twice in this live stream. So when I'm talking about the main topic, I won't really be looking at the screen, but feel free to talk among yourselves and you can ask the questions when we get to that point. All right. Nucky Levy. Is that how I pronounce your name? Ben Bricks, how are you doing? AX Bricks 82. Thank you so much. All right. And okay, can I say you? Yes, I can. It's a Mattia Pellegrino. Xavier, how are you doing? Hope you finished work and all is good. All right. So tell you what, we've got everyone in the chat. Why don't we get right to it and then we can chat later on. So the topic we are going to talk about today is how to make a Lego city look bigger than it is. I know a couple of you have Lego cities. Some of you are thinking about starting a Lego city. Maybe some of you have a modest shelf and you don't think you really have space for a Lego city. Trust me, you always have space for a Lego city. That's why I started this channel, to help people who didn't think they had space to start a Lego city. Because I have a small brick city, but if you look at it, or if a layman were to look at it, they won't think that it's small. They'll probably think it's quite big. Of course, we've seen Lego YouTubers and just people who have Lego cities. Some of them have their whole basement, garage, they have a whole building just for their Lego city. But not everyone is that lucky. You might not have the space. You might not want to commit that space for Lego. But you might have a table space, a large shelf, or a couple of tables that you like to display your Lego sets and create a city. So I did a poll earlier this week. Now, if you guys didn't know, every week before the live stream, generally about Thursday or Friday, I will do a poll asking a question that is relevant to the live stream. Now, if you're thinking, where's this poll? You never saw it. That's at the community tab of the Small Brick City channel. Now, most times it should pop up on your feed, but in case it doesn't, well, make sure first you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell. So if you're subscribed to Small Brick City, but you have not turned on that notification bell, please do that right now. This ensures you get all the notifications, not just for the videos, but for stuff like this. And in the poll, I asked the question, and I gave options basically, and I asked what people think is needed to make a custom Lego city seem bigger than it is. So you can see the results there. We had 247 votes at the time I did this, but I think they're now almost 270. So thank you everyone who did participate in the vote. Your participation really makes it good. I mean, this is interaction, and more importantly, the more people vote gives me a sense of what people think. As you can see, 47%, that's almost half, said that you make a Lego city seem bigger by adding bigger and taller buildings. 17% said that instead of bigger and taller buildings, add more small builds. 23%, which is just about one quarter, but it's the second highest, said create more variety within the Lego city. And then just to round it up, only 6 and 7% people said add more minifigs and add more vehicles. Now, I also asked people to give comments, and some people did comment, so thank you for that. With Sean, who said, how about forced perspective or a mirror or a Hollywood-style background that blends into the city? Just in case you're wondering what a forced perspective means, it's a camera technique that is used both in filmmaking, TVs, and even magicians use it. And basically it's to take advantage of the camera angle, which is a fixed perspective, and make it seem as though something is bigger or smaller than it is. For example, Lord of the Rings, that's how they created the look of the hobbits among regular people. So a simple example of forced perspective is if you have a camera that's facing you, now take your finger and put it in front of your face by about 1 foot close to the camera. Now, on the monitor, your finger will look huge compared to your face. But of course, you know that your face is much bigger than your finger. But that is forced perspective, making the viewer look at something through a single point or single perspective, and just using distance to create the illusion of size. So that's what Sean means basically. A mirror, I'll get to that in a bit. Kale Cadwell, he said, add a few tall buildings, and he's talking about just the facades, and that's a good example, and I'll talk about that as well. Thor McKells, a mountain in the back helps. So he's talking about creating landscape and a big mountain, and I think several people did agree with that as well. And finally, we have Crystal's Collectibles, who gave quite a bit of input. She talked about smaller buildings next to big buildings, alleyways, roads, minifigs, gardens. What she's really talking about is variety. And finally, Miles agreed on the idea of the building facades or a big hill. So that is input from the viewers. Feel free to let me know what you think later on as well, or you can do it right now and I'll track back the comments later. So I basically have 5 tips for you if you want to make your Lego city appear bigger. Now, of course, it depends what you're doing this for. Are you creating your Lego city for a YouTube or social media medium? Is it through photographs, through videos? Is it for your friends and family who visit you at home to see your Lego city? Or is it purely for yourself? So those considerations are important when you apply this. But my tips generally would work for any platform that you're showcasing your Lego city. So let's get with it. Tip number one, and these are simple tips. Well, they're simple and they get a bit more complicated, but let's talk about tip number one first. And it's very simple. That is to ensure that your Lego city is well lit. That's it. Just make sure you have adequate lighting on your Lego city, and I would recommend lighting from directly above in all directions if you can. If you have an even spread of light that is diffused over your Lego city, it gives it a very nice, clear and clean look, which of course makes your Lego city nice and bright and as large as possible. Because if you have dark lighting, it's going to look gloomy, it doesn't look as big. If you have uneven lighting, you're again going to have maybe parts of your city which are lit, some aren't lit, some are in shadow. Now, I also recommend to use white light and not tungsten or yellow or warm light. Yellow light, again, gives a very dull look, and when it shines off the plastic, it doesn't look as good as diffused white light. So that's something to think about. So cool lighting is always good for your Lego city. And if you have even lighting throughout your city, that's one way to make your Lego city look bigger than it is. A no-brainer. Now, number two is a bit of an illusionary technique. And that is, and I'm sure not many people considered this, but that is build brighter color buildings or builds on the outer edges of your city. So if you have buildings which are mainly black or dark gray, don't put them on the outskirts of your city or the edges. Put them in the middle and put the brighter builds on the end. So what am I talking about? It's really an illusionary technique, and magicians and illusionists apply this in their illusion design. Let me show you a picture. So here we have a rectangle. Have a look at that and have a look at the next rectangle over here. Which looks bigger? The one that's on screen right now with the yellow on the outside, or the one with the yellow on the inside? And the answer is the one with the yellow on the outside looks bigger. When you put a black or dark border around something, it definitely makes the overall object appear smaller. But if you have the bright colors on the outside, it makes it look bigger. I know it seems simple, but this is a technique used in fashion as well. If you want to look slimmer, you'd want to wear something that is darker or has dark edges on the sides. You do not want to have bright edges on the sides, because that really emphasizes a body shape, for example. And the same thing is used in illusion design, and the same thing can be applied to Lego cities. So if you want to create the illusion of a Lego city looking bigger than it is, have your bright, cheerful builds. And I'm not talking about bright yellow, I'm just talking about just white, lighter colors. Reserve all your darker, gloomy colors for the center. So that's tip number two on how to make your Lego city look bigger than it is. Now, tip number three, I agree with most of the people, but only halfway. So basically, most people felt, or those who responded in the poll, felt that you should add in bigger and taller buildings. Now, this really depends on the space you have. You might not always be able to add a bigger building, but you definitely generally can add a taller building, because most people have an issue or limitation with the area space, not so much the vertical space. Sometimes if you just have a shelf and it's quite high up and you might have a low ceiling, but I would say by and large, if you're working, for example, with a Lego city on a table, you have quite a lot of clearance that goes upwards. So to me, you don't necessarily have to build big. That means your area space of a building doesn't have to be big, but you can go tall. So if you have a couple of tall buildings in your city, and I'm just talking about 2 or 3 buildings, you don't even need a massive amount of buildings. Or if you have a small Lego city, you just need one skyscraper or something that's built high. That can give the illusion that your city is big, because everyone's eyes just focuses on this tall structure, and that kind of makes it impressive. Now, to add on to that, instead of just building tall or having several tall buildings with your other buildings, I also suggest another approach. You can have a truly massive building. one main massive build in your entire city. Maybe it's a soccer stadium, maybe it's a huge skyscraper, maybe it's a castle. But basically, I'm talking something that might take up half of your entire space in terms of area, and it goes up, 2 feet or 3 feet, 1 meter up in the air. And then your small build surrounding it. So for example, if you're to build a large, let's call it a castle, you have a huge castle in the middle of your display, which goes up 1 meter, and then you've got, maybe it sits on a mountain, and around it you have small huts and villages and stuff like that. Even though you have only one large display, this can give the illusion that you have a huge Lego city. Now, most of us, if we build a Lego city, we generally have multiple builds, but in the event you're looking to do something different or you want to create a large MOC, this is one way to go. So, but the main tip is add taller buildings or builds in your Lego city, not necessarily bigger, but taller, and this can help create the illusion that you have a larger Lego city than you actually have. Tip number 4, and that is to create some kind of background. Now, this generally applies if you are building your Lego city against a wall, or even if you aren't, you'd want to have a backdrop for the side of the table which is closest to the wall. Most of us, again, if you have a Lego city, you probably won't put it just in the middle of your room, unless you have a room totally dedicated to just a Lego city. I would say that majority of people, even if they have a room dedicated to a Lego city or their Lego studio, they would still kind of put their Lego city closer to one wall. This is an opportunity to create some kind of backdrop. And there are 2 ways you can do that. Early on, some people responded in the poll about talking about building facades, and this really means the front of buildings. You can brick build buildings or the front of buildings to create the illusion of a fuller building, but basically they just form a backdrop behind your entire city. Of course, it does depend what sort of city you're building. If you're building, let's say, a desert, or you're in the sea, you have a large portion of your Lego city which has the sea, then obviously it doesn't make sense to have just buildings in the horizon or completely on the backdrop. But just as the sake of discussion, assuming you have a typical Lego city which is a city or a town city, so mainly comprising of buildings, then you can create facades of buildings and line them off at the back. You can even make them higher so that when you look at it, that's where the forced perspectives comes around a bit. You need to make them taller because they're right behind. Because if they're right behind, they'll appear smaller if they're the same height as your other buildings. So you'd probably have to build them high. But you save on bricks because you're not building a full building. You just need the front facade. And as a guide, I would suggest probably 4 studs deep. That's all you need to create enough texture, because you do not just want a flat surface with maybe windows. You do want to add texture. But 4 studs is more than enough to create windowsills, door frames, texturing for the facade, pillars, columns, any kind of relief patterns, lights. Lots of opportunity to create very interesting facades without using too many bricks. Now, because you're building tall, I would think you probably need to secure it firmly down. But if you're building against the wall, I would use probably blue tack or double-sided tape just to hold the back of the facades to the wall, because if it's very thin, it's not going to be stable. You do not want it toppling on your Lego city as well. So that's a good tip. Now, let's say you don't have enough bricks or you don't feel like building a whole row of facades. You can cheat a bit and you can use images. And I have 2 suggestions for this. One is you can actually look for images of actual modular buildings. So if you check out some of the official images from Lego, there are quite a few which give you front-facing views. Now, not everyone, some gives you at a weird angle. So look for the ones that are front-facing. And you can extract these photographs generally against a white background, which is great. You can use a photo manipulation software like a Photoshop or GIMP, or if you don't know how, look for someone who can do it for you. And what you want to do is get a cutout of those images, and then you line them out in a graphic file and then print them out. Of course, you don't need to print a full single sheet. It can be many different pieces of paper or card that you're printing on, and you would create an entire backdrop this way. So you can of course scale them because you can manipulate the photos, make them slightly bigger, because they're going to be in the back row, and you create basically an artificial Lego row which will be printed out, and you can then attach that or paste it to your wall to create your backdrop. Now, if you want to go one step further, you can look for images of a sky, a city sky, not a city sky, but just any blue sky, for example, and you can put the buildings images overlapped or overlaid over the sky. So now you get a whole kind of a scenery. So that's one option. Another option is to just look for city skylines or cityscapes. City skylines, and you can find these online. Let me give you a hint or a tip for a website. So there's a website called Pixabay. This is just one example of these sites, but this is one of the most popular, pixabay.com. That's pixabay.com. And in this website, you can get royalty-free photographs. So you generally get high quality, as in they're high resolution. So that's good for printing out when you want to print them out big. And they're also good because it's royalty free. You don't have to worry about copyright infringement. If you, let's say, print it out and then you put it out on your Instagram or YouTube, you don't want any copyright holders to say, hey, you have used their images, or if it's a Getty images, you do not want to be sued by them. And trust me, they do go after people. So you can go to this website and you can type in, for example, city skyline, and you can choose between images. You can see the photographs or vector images. I would choose vector images because that means you can scale them to any size you need generally, or you can also look for illustrations. And the reason I say so is because you are building a Lego town, which is a toy town made of plastic bricks. You can of course put a realistic photo skyline, but that might look unrealistic. So just to give you an example, if you were to hit that city skyline and go for illustrations or vector images, you can get images like that, some in black and white, some in color, and you can choose something that would fit you. And of course, depending on the size of your room or your wall, you can just repeat the photographs. But you can download these photographs for free, and you can use them, and they're high resolution. And of course, this is just a sample of some photos you can get. You can do a better, more comprehensive search to find something that suits you. So that's how you can create a backdrop for your Lego city to make it look bigger. Now, earlier on in one of the poll comments, Sean mentioned about using a mirror. That's what some people might think as well. Have the backdrop a custom mirror. And it reflects, right? Basically your city, so your city can look twice as big. That is true, but remember, if you have a mirror and you want to showcase your Lego city on Instagram or on YouTube, and if you have a camera facing the wall or the mirror with your Lego city, you're basically going to reflect yourself and anything behind. So personally, I don't recommend a mirror. I would say go for some kind of backdrop. Now, if for whatever reason you're super rich, you can get an LED wall, and then now you can have an ever-changing backdrop because it's all digital. But I doubt anyone is actually going to do that. Maybe I'll do that next time. So that's number 4, and that's basically to build some kind of facade or backdrop for your Lego city. Now let's go to the final tip before I turn my attention to the live chat to hear what you guys are saying. And that is to create variety in your Lego city. Now, I mentioned, or I highlighted this as a poll option, and I was surprised that only 25% chose variety. This is actually my top pick. I would choose variety over having big and tall buildings. And when I mean variety, there are 3 things that you want variety in. You want variety in design, that's the design of your different builds or buildings. You want variety in landscape, and you want variety in your scenes or your builds, and these are the smaller builds and minifig settings. So all this constitutes variety, and you'll be surprised how much you can fit into a small space. And my very first Lego city, or the first main section of my Lego city, was Brick Beach, and it still is Brick Beach. And this is an example of how I put in variety in my Lego city. It's a tiny space. This is only 6 feet long by 2.5 feet wide, or basically 2.5 base plates. So it's not even 2.5 feet. It's probably more like 25 inches. So it's 2 feet, just a bit more than 2 feet deep. But I created variety by having different builds, different levels. So the landscape was different. I had a combination of grass, concrete, the beach, which is sand, and water. So you get all these textures within a small space. You get a variety of builds. There's just so much to see. So the goal is to create multiple points of interest within your Lego city. That means if you're to look at a Lego city at one passing, will you be able to absorb everything just by looking at it for 5 seconds? Some Lego cities are like that. I find they may be huge, they may be big, but there's really not many points of interest. So if I look at it for 5 to 10 seconds, I basically have seen everything. However, in a city like this, or at least part of my city, Brick Beach, it'll take you more than 10 seconds to really look at all the different details. So this creates multiple points of interest. You look at maybe the beach, you look at the water, you look at the boat, then you go to the town garden where the market is, you go up the stairs to the main street, you look at the buildings there. So the impression that you get is, wow, there just seems so much in this Lego city. And then when you think about it later, you reconstruct it in your mind that, well, this city must have been very big because there's just so many things to see. So variety is a great tool that you can use and can really create the illusion that your Lego city is bigger than it is. So remember, variety in design, variety in landscape, and variety in the scenes that you create. So those are my tips to create the illusion that your Lego city is bigger than it is. I'll now turn my attention back to the live chat and see what you guys have to comment on this. And if you just joined us, welcome to Coffee and Bricks. This is a weekly live stream. It's the weekend live stream. Always happens at the same time. We haven't changed the timing of the live stream for the past 7 episodes. So do make this a regular thing. And we have got many regulars who always join in the chat. And if you are watching this, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button whether you're watching the live stream right now or the replay, and join in the comments. Not just for the live stream, but comment as well if you're watching the replay. And if you just joined us, one thing I always ask people to do is to tell us where you're from and what time it is in your world. So go ahead and do that as well. But right now, let's have a look and hear your thoughts or read your thoughts on how to create the illusion that your Lego city is bigger than it is. So let me pull up the chat. And let me just go back. Tayshawn's birthday. Happy birthday, Tayshawn. Now, in Chinese culture, the birthday person always buys everyone a meal. So, Tayshawn, you have to buy everyone a meal in the live stream. Galagate, Cowie, Colin, thank you very much for joining us. And I'm going to race down to see what you guys think about it. Facades, yep, people like it. Jolie likes that idea. Yes, Annie, for all of you who don't know, Annie is the co-founder of Small Brick City, and she lives in a small cupboard in Small Brick City, and that's where she is responding to your questions and answers now. And you know what? Check out her channel. Just hit her name, the 3 dots to the right of her name, and check out her channel and subscribe to it as well. She's got great content. Galagate says, I like JC's background with the fake brick walls. Who says it's fake? Well, the reason I had the brick walls because I thought that it's quite cool, Small Brick City, right? So I might as well have bricks. But I think the next time if I redo my Lego city or, move to another place, I might do facades. I'll do actually a combination of brick-built facades with a printed background. I think that's what I might do. Brick Builder Blue, thank you for joining us. Lego Lemaniac says, does JC just push sets through a small cat door for you to do the speed builds? Yep, and that's where her food comes in too. Inside the Bricks, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us. Is that Island Bricks? Hi, you're from Singapore. Great to see another Singaporean here. Lego Lemaniac, idea for your store. You could have a bunch of different Lego skyline backdrops for people to use as the backdrop for their Lego city. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Might consider that. Max Clark says, would it be a good idea to make a backdrop of facade in a darker palette than your actual city buildings so that they look that they're further away? That's a great idea. I would think so. You might want to make it darker so it looks further. So even if you have a bright graphic, you can always add a mask, a semi-transparent mask in black to tone it down. Yeah, that's good. Jang puts a TV under his table. Galagate said, is that for his underwater? I think it's for his underwater scene, right? When he upgraded it. That makes sense. But I'm talking about a whole video wall for the entire Lego city. So I'm talking about something that's maybe 16 feet wide. Mahan says, I wanted to have a mirror so that I can be a giant monster to kill the city. You've seen mirrors. Max says, I've seen mirrors used well at the back of an alley or under a bridge. Then it looks like the alley goes on further or there's a street further on under the bridge. That's a great idea, Max. And I think, yeah, instead of really having the entire wall to be a mirror, I do see the value of having mirrors in certain areas. That would create a very nice illusion, especially, as you said, if it's under a bridge or a tunnel. So you look in and it seems to go on. That's a great idea, great illusion. Samuel says, I would add variety, can't overstate light, white light that gives true color over your city. Annie, are you saying JC is living in Singapore too? Oh my god, yes, I am Singaporean. Woodshop teacher likes multiple points of interest. Yeah, that's something I use not just for Lego, but for any time you want to create anything interesting. So if I'm producing an event, I'm talking about a social entertainment event, and you have an event space where you have a party, you want to create what I call pockets of entertainment throughout, multiple points of interest throughout the room. So you don't just want to have, for example, just something on stage. At one end of the room, you want to have different activities and entertainers in all parts of the room so that when you enter this event space, you just get entertained throughout, and there's just so much to look at and it becomes more interesting. And even when I do a show, I also try to create multiple points of interest in my show. Tyron says, when will you show your full Lego city in a video? Yes, I've been putting it off because it just takes so much effort to do a Lego city video. And I have so much changes to my city. I will be doing it soon because I'm working on a huge mock now. Now, Mahan asked Annie early on what we're going to do with the two great halls because she did a mirror build of the Harry Potter Hogwarts Great Halls. So we have two of them. We've also got the clock tower. So I've got 3 Harry Potter builds I intend to combine into a cathedral. And I'll be starting work on that this coming week. After I finish the cathedral, assuming I can, because that project is either success or failure. I see it going either way. But assuming it's a success, that goes into Brick Beach, which means there's a major change. Metro City has lots of changes because I built so many new MOCs. So I'll definitely be doing a Lego City update or working on one in 2 weeks' time. Stack them and pack them for sure. Hi Ingrid. Hi Ron. Does anyone have any future city tips? Because I want to make a future city. A future city, I guess you mean a futuristic city, a modern city. I think you get inspiration from sci-fi shows and you build from there. I think it's you basically have to mock everything. So that will be very challenging. I maybe would suggest just doing a section of your city as a futuristic city. Maybe there's a portal that brings people there, or maybe it's like a Elon Musk experimental futuristic city that he's just trying to develop, rather than build a whole city, because that can be quite challenging. Tyron says, just so you all know, I'm this channel's official troll, as I was knighted by JC himself. Yes, Tyrone Jackson is the biggest troll for us on Small Brick City. Alright, great. I hope you guys like the main topic that we talked about, giving the illusion that your Lego city is bigger. And on the subject of illusion, let's change the pace a bit before I get into the spotlight and answer more questions in the Q&A. And that is to share with you another technique that magicians use, because I talked about forced perspective and I talked about how magicians use these techniques and how I apply them for Lego City. Let me share with you another little magician secret. If you watched last week's live stream, I did a card effect. I used a deck of cards and I did some magic. If you missed that, do check out last week's live stream. So several people asked me how I did that. I can't tell you how to do that because if I tell you, I would have to kill you. But I thought I'll show you something else. And I won't use a whole deck of cards because the last time I used the whole deck of cards, people felt, well, maybe we couldn't see what's going on. There's just too many cards. You're trying to confuse us. So I'm going to simplify things and I'm just going to use 4 playing cards. And I've got 2 queens, red queens specifically, and 2 black aces. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 playing cards. That's all. And the lesson I'd like to highlight to you is what we magicians call misdirection. Misdirection is a concept where we try to misdirect you. We try basically to say one thing, but we do another thing in the hope that you don't notice and we therefore can deceive you later on. But of course, we say it in a very natural way, in a very smooth way, a very slick way to try to put it in so that when you're in a relaxed state and you hear something, your eyes don't necessarily see the same thing. Sounds a bit confusing, but that is what misdirection is all about. And I'll use this as an example. And if you're watching this now, you can try to kind of play along and see if I can successfully misdirect you. But I'm actually making it difficult for myself now because I'm telling you what I'm about to do. And normally when someone does a magic trick or magician performs, he never tells you what he's going to do because that's the element of surprise. But I'm actually helping you out and I'm telling you now. So I'm going to tell you one thing, but I'm going to do the other thing in the hope that I misdirect you. All right, so let's get started. 4 cards, 2 red queens and 2 black aces. So watch very carefully. Watch the black aces. Are the black aces in front or behind? I'll give you a second to think about it. Now, if you said behind, you're absolutely right. So that's pretty good. Okay, so that was just the warm-up. Now we get to the tricky part, so you have to pay attention very carefully. I'll show you the black aces one at a time. This is the ace of clubs. Looks like a 3-leaf clover. I'm going to take the ace of clubs and I'll put it in my pocket, but sticking out so you can see it all the time. That leaves me with another black ace, and that's the ace of spades. Watch and listen very carefully. I'm going to take the ace of spades and I'll put it behind the ace of clubs. So where's the ace of spades? Is it behind or in front? Now, if you are watching and listening very closely, it means you're watching and listening too closely. Because the black aces are over here. And in the pocket, we have the 2 red queens. And that's your lesson in misdirection. Go ahead and think about it. If you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and rewind and watch it again. Well, let me know if you like that and let me know if you learned the lesson in magic because that's what it's all about. Go ahead and like the video if you liked it. If you didn't like the magic, go ahead and dislike the video. That's perfectly fine as well. So you saw that? You think it's behind? Great. Glad you guys enjoyed that. Hazel, welcome to the live stream. So how can you use misdirection in building a small brick city? Well, that's basically what this live stream was all about, to create the illusion that your Lego city is bigger than it is. Can I be the small brick city comedian? Yes, you can. Is your minifig or sig fig a clown? Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the live stream. Let's move on to another segment I call the Small Brick City Spotlight. So, in the Small Brick City Spotlight, I highlight stuff that I'm working on, or maybe it's something interesting. Not so big this time round, but just small things I'm working on. The first thing I like to show you, and I'm not going to reveal it because one of our subscribers, Brenda, she mentioned not to spoil it on the live stream, so I won't. But if you've been following my videos this week, you know I've been working on that townhouse, pet shop, and cafe. So I have completed it. In fact, there's still one more video to go. That's part 5 where I do the interior building. But after that, I do even more improvements and I do the final review of that set. And let me just show you the ground floor of that set. So I'm not going to spoil the whole building, but I have completed the ground floor, and this is the outside. And you can see just some of the detailing I've done, and I've also added some scenes. And this is actually now, in my case, it's no longer the townhouse, pet shop, and cafe. It is now a pet cafe and a townhouse. But what I did was to remock this to become a half modular style building. So I'm just going to show you the ground floor because I do not want to spoil it. Now, Hazel's asking, is that dog stealing money? That's a very good question. But if you look closely, in his bag, he's got money and bones. No, he was just using the ATM to draw money so he can buy more bones. He's a very smart dog. Tayshawn's right. The dog wants money for bones. Yes, Galagate, the trees come from the original set, but because I had 2 sets of 2 trees, and I think it works pretty well. Julian Brick City asks, what happened to the Evil Crop skyscraper? Nothing. Nothing has happened to it. And let's see. Let's show you the Nix Spotlight, okay? So the Nix Spotlight is something I am working on right now. I won't spoil it. I'll just show you part of it. But the idea is to create remocks. And let me just show you what I'm working on. If you're familiar with my channel for some time, you might have noticed these 2 builds. They're 2 separate builds. One is a coffee shop, 2-story coffee shop, which is my remock from the coffee shop from the set 60097. That's a City Square set. And then the one on the left, that's a small coffee kiosk, which I designed. And that logo you see with the red cup and the yellow starburst, that's borrowed from the assembly square. So I had fun building these mocks, but every now and then I do get bored, and sometimes I do have to save space. And one way you can get more out of your Lego city or your Lego building experience and your creativity is to do remocks, or basically rebuild sets that you have. And one technique of creating remocks is to combine sets together. These can be official sets or these can be mocks. And recently I did my remock of the toy store from the donut shop opening, and I combined that with the Space Rocket ride, and it became a really interesting mock. If you haven't seen that, do check out my past videos just from the past week. But my next project, or this small, I won't even call it a major project, this small project that I'm working on is a remock, and I want to combine these 2 buildings together, or the kiosk and the coffee shop, and make it into a half modular style building. Let me just show you a sneak peek of the build that I have so far. So I'm integrating both builds together. I have the kiosk now as part of the front of a 2-story building, which is also expanded. And I think this is pretty realistic because many coffee shops that I see and have seen have an outdoor kiosk where you can buy, takeout, or you just want a quick drink, so you can order from the takeout kiosk counter, which is connected to the main building, or you can go inside, order your food, and take a seat. So this is the small project I'm currently working on, and you'll be able to see these videos next week or this coming week as well. And it's a 2-part video, pretty short because it's pretty small. I thought I could do everything in 1 part, but even though it seems so straightforward, it's actually harder than it looks, I'll say. So that's the Small Brick City spotlight for this week. Just small spotlights, but that's something to expect. And the other big project to expect that I start work on will be the Harry Potter Hogwarts Cathedral, where I'll be combining 2 sets of the Great Hall as well as the Clock Tower to try to create a really nice big cathedral. So what are your thoughts on everything? Do let me know. We're coming towards the second Q&A part of the stream. Yes, Brenda Fairbrother, yes, she's the one who said do not spoil it, and therefore I'm not spoiling it. What kind of dog is that white one with the red bow? Hazel asks. That is a brick-built dog. It looks like Brian from Family Guy, but that comes with the Townhouse Pet Shop and Cafe set. It is brick-built, and it's supposed to be a real dog in Legos, brick built creator world, but I'm just using it as a kind of a statue or 3D sign. Lego Maniac, is the green thing on the sign a snail? Green thing on the sign. Which sign are you talking about? Let's go back to the pet shop. Oh, the green. No, I think it's a bird. That's a dog looking at a bird. So that's a head of a bird, or half the head of the bird and his beak. That's what you're looking at. Mahan is asking, Ben Bricks, do you want to ask Brick Amigos about Canadian Brickyard? I've talked about this on a BrickTuber stream as well. We know that Canadian Brickyard just closed down his channel. If you guys have any information that you can share, let everyone know as well. Gallagher says it's a duck. No, I think it's a bird. I don't think it's a duck. Have you ever seen a green duck, Gallagher? Woodshop Teacher says he just uploaded a remock of set 7993. I'll check it out after this. You love the Batman poster. Thank you very much. That's the billboard. Mahan says, my thoughts are dogs are evil. No, dogs aren't evil. No. Samuel says, a cat lover myself. I have got a dog and 2 cats and they live happily ever after. Tayshawn says, the green thing is a duck. It's not a duck. I'll tell you why it's not a duck. A duck has a beak which is upturned, or a bill which is upturned. This is obviously curved downwards. It's a bird. It's not a duck. Who would like to argue? Is it a duck or a bird? It's a feathered creature. It's a mallard. It is a green duck. Oh, a mallard is a green duck. Obviously, I have no idea what a mallard is. So does a mallard have a beak which is downturned? But ducks don't have beaks like that. Max is our resident duck expert. Captain Duckman. A duck is also a bird. Yes, Captain Duckman. Your username checks out. Is that a duck or a bird? I defer to you. You are the captain of a duck and you're the man. Hazel says, so if you turn around the beak, would it be a duck? Yes, it would be a duck. I would agree. Gala says, it can be a parrot. Yes, it could be a parrot. A parrot is closer to a bird than a duck. Okay, enough about the duck or a beak. And Tayshawn says it's an alligator. No, it's not. Okay, you guys are hilarious. This has been a fun time. Ingrid says, is your Lego store the same as ours? What do you mean by that? The physical store, or are you talking about the layout? Just let me know, Ingrid, what do you mean by is your Lego store the same as ours? It's a duck, it's a plane. No, it's JC. It can be a hawk. Okay, we've moved on from that, guys. We'll wait for the designer video to come up and then we'll ask the guy, is it a duck, is it a parrot, or is it a hawk? Maybe it's a picture of his wife, I don't know. So guys, Ingrid, I'm still waiting for your reply. If you can, let me know what you mean about the Lego store same as ours. Are you talking about the Lego stores where I'm from? Are they the same as yours? Or are you talking about the Lego store in Small Brick City, the brick built ones? Well guys, thank you so much. It's been a great stream once again. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the topic, the magic, the spotlight, and just the chat. This coming week, we will not have a weekday brick design breakdown live stream again. So there'll be 2 weeks in a row there'll be no live stream because I'll be traveling for work. So can't do a weekday live stream, but we'll definitely do the weekend live stream. Same time next week, Saturday for most of you guys, if not middle of the night, early Sunday morning for people in Asia and Australia. So thank you once again. Do check out Annie's channel. Subscribe to the channel. She's got new content coming out this week, which is going to be really cool. And if you're wondering what her channel is, it's really simple. You would have seen her on the chat, and her channel name is Annie Small Brick City. You can just follow that, like, and subscribe. So once again, thank you everyone for joining in this live stream. It has been fun. And as always, do check out our videos before you leave, and talk to you soon.